Well, good morning and welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Heavyweights podcast. I'm Ashton Hines, one half of the Real Estate Heavyweights, 4.5 years in the business, more traditional real estate than anything else. But I have 4 flips, 1 rental property that I sold recently. And the last couple of flips that I did, I was able to connect with a friend that I had known on Facebook for close to 12 years. I knew of him. And a college, one of my best friends in college, Lawrence Cow, had been flipping houses in Dallas remotely, and his boots on the ground was a guy named Tavis Westbrook. And I started following him. So I knew who he was. And when I moved to town, we connected. And luckily, he came into my life as I was drowning at one of my flips. And he said, "Let me put my cape on and I will bring my guys and we will fix this." So he showed up. And so with me this morning is that man, Tavis Westbrook. What's up, Tavis?
Good morning, man. I'm doing well.
Do you still have that cape? Do you wear your Superman cape, your flipping Superman cape around every once in a while and just...
I think it's a little tethered, but
well,
try
it definitely came in handy.
Try to piece what together we can, you know.
Yeah, your Superman powers. I think the very first, I remember trying to get you over to Polk a couple of, hey, you mind running by Polk? You mind running by Polk? And we had made a lot of progress. I don't remember the first thing that you came in and saw and said, this isn't going to cut it.
I think the biggest thing that gave me heartburn was just you had demo things left over that weren't done, and you were at the finish stage of like tile and paint and
carpet,
several things like that. I think carpet was going in, and there were still like things that needed to be demoed that were skipped from
the corner molding that I know that always drives you nuts.
Well, there was, I can't remember particularly.
I don't remember either. I'm trying to think back.
But there were some pictures. There were just some loose ends that were like skipped over from the very beginning, and I was like, oh no, like you're gonna have to double back on some of this. So
well, I know Elite came in and he did cabinet fronts in that house, and that was very late in the game.
The paint was really bad.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, and we had paid a really cheap painter, and the cabinet fronts just looked awful. And so Elite did cabinet fronts. I know we doubled back on some HVAC, some plumbing, and some electrical. I remember that the electrical had to come out, I think, and almost redo all the trim because it was
funny
wacky.
With your appliances too, or something like it was the countertops and the cooktop, or they cut the hole for the cooktop, didn't have the cooktop on site, and then the cooktop you got didn't work or something.
Yeah, it was one of those where they cut the hole thinking that they had it the right size, and then they ordered it and it wasn't right. Yeah, it was a whole mess. But luckily you helped me out on that. It ended up being a very pretty house. I was looking at pictures the other day. I've driven by it a couple of times just because we quoted some houses over there. Yeah. And it still looks like it's standing, and the colors have held up pretty well. I was proud of my color designs. And you said the other day that I don't make a lot of design decisions on any of your flips. But the other day we went to Bedrosian Tile, and you're trying that place out the last couple projects, and I was doing a real good job of spending your money by picking out
yes, you were.
upgraded tile. Like, man, this would look good right here. This would look good. The sales girl loved me. But I did. We were thinking through the upstairs bathroom at Montego. It's your latest flip about to come onto the market, and I found this sort of retro, funky tile. Not crazy. But I said, I think this would look good in a kid's bathroom. And so you trusted the design instinct of this man, and you went with it. And the other day, you were walking through with a couple neighbors, and they specifically mentioned liking it, and they took some pictures. So it makes me feel good. Yep.
No, it was it definitely needed to make a phone call to you to let you know. So
you've made a lot of bad decisions in your life. I just want to let you know that one of them did work out.
No, it does look cool. It does have a cool retro vibe to it. The house, one of the ladies said, "Oh, it has a very, mid-century vibe," which throwing that word around, is one of those things that's like a lot of people use it. Somebody recently posted something last week, said, "What is a real estate cliche that gets often overused for the wrong reasons?" And it was, quotations mid-century modern with the quotations. Because a lot of people throw it around and it's not really mid-century. Like the house wasn't built in the mid-century, or maybe it was a mid-century ranch, but it wasn't a mid-century modern house. So anyways, I'm kind of funny about that, but she was throwing that around and I'm like, yeah, it does have some of that vibe. Mind you, it's an 80s build, but there's some, design elements in the house that has that retro feel to it that we played off of. And of course that is a style I love. So anytime I can pay homage to that with light fixtures and various things and kind of pull in some of those things, those elements.
It's one of the only styles that is almost, I'm trying to think, it's definitely one of the only architectural housing styles that I can think of that's really tied to a fairly narrow era. Because I mean, if you have Craftsman or Tudor or farmhouse, you can have that style pretty much in any era. You're just sort of doing that style, and no one's going to be like, dude, there's no farms around. There hadn't been a farm around here in 75 years. You can't call it farmhouse style. But I mean, people are still cool with it. But if you say, hey, this is a mid-century style house, like most people kind of like, yeah, maybe,
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of elements that come into that. And I think if you go back, we had an early episode, I think we talked about those things. Some of those elements that are in the architectural design realm that kind of makes a home mid-century or mid-century modern, MCM.
A lot of the basics were just the quick basics are, it was actually early on meant to be simplistic and kind of cheap to build. A lot of glass because glass was less expensive then. Really simple lines, not stark interiors, but definitely not ornate.
Blending interiors and outsides together.
Yeah,
right?
A lot of natural materials.
Generally, there were smaller homes, so you would bring the outdoors in and vice versa. The other aspect is it was a warm modern, clean lines but warmth tones. So a lot of natural wood, a lot of different earth tones when it comes to paint schematics and things like that. So,
and in general, it turns out built for horse jockeys because I can't walk through a true mid-century modern house without bumping a wall
Frank Lloyd,
or
right?
moving a door frame. I mean, they're just not built for people. Now, that's why these days you do a renovation and you kind of blow a few things out.
So, like, if you go back to a lot of the stuff that's like a time capsule, you'll see a lot of, of the earth tone paint schematics, wallpapers, dark woods, they almost have this kind of eerie, stark feel, or not a stark feel, but like an eerie, like just
dystopian
you
kind
can
of like
smell it, right? Like you can smell the musk by looking at an old dated picture of one that's like a time capsule.
Yeah.
But, and then, even the homes I was doing 10, 15 years ago, we were using, white walls, because you can then accent, with artwork and things like that and bring the colors in that way. And we kept the walls simple, but then we warmed up, cabinets and floors and things like that, but now we're kind of getting into this relaxed modern phase of design. And again, pull elements from restaurants and hotels. And so now I'm using a little bit more of a various color palette. And, cozy, warm, right? And that warm, cozy.
I think you're like mid-century, a little bit boho, and kind of cozy. That's sort of I think that's really kind of. It looks awesome. I think it looks good, and I think those elements.
I call it relaxed modern, right? Because you still got the clean lines, simplistic aspects to the home, but there's some warmth and paint schematics and things like that. It just makes you feel at home. And that was one thing hearing those ladies talk. They were like, it just has such a, comfortable vibe.
A
This
home
house
feel.
is so comfortable, and so that's great to hear.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
moving on.
So I will tell you about talking about things not being demoed right. So I told you I went on a field trip yesterday, and I got a call for a listing, and they found me online. This is an investor group that I'm a part of, and I've posted before that I'm a realtor in Dallas, and I'm not super active on that group, but this investor down in Houston,
Hey,
I guess they're
one of those
up here.
things, man.
Yeah,
you've got enough spider webs out there. You're going to catch something.
Yep. Yeah. So they reached out. They had tried to pitch me. I want to say they tried to pitch me this house 3 months ago. And I ran the numbers and it just wasn't right for us, but I guess they ended up taking it. So it's over in Garland, nearby several of your projects and your commercial building. And so put in the address, and she said, hey, the crew is always there from 8 to 6. I'm thinking there's no way a crew is always there from 8 to 6, but whatever. I was like, is there a lockbox or whatever? So she's like, no, but the crew will be there. I'm like, okay. So randomly, the same address, there was one in Richardson. And so when I'm putting it in the GPS, I knew the general direction I was driving, and I just start driving, and it pulls me up in front of this address in Richardson. I'm like, wait a minute, this is not right. And so I'm like, so I put it into the Garland, and so, all right, now I'm going to Garland. It was like 30 minutes away. So I pull up on this street, and there's like 4421 Meadowbrook or Weatherford, something generic. And running down the street, sure enough, here's this truck, and I see like 8 guys lounged out in the front yard. I mean, they're just like taking their break, right? And there's but it's a foundation truck.
And this is in Richardson.
This is in Garland. So I went over to the house.
This is after you. Okay.
I went to the wrong address. Then I went over to, it sent me to Richardson. I went over to the street, and she's like, hey, the crew will be there. I get there. I see the crew. They're like laid out in the front yard, like a bunch of them. And so the front door is open. So I walk in, and this like foreman's there, and he speaks a little bit of English, but not great. So I start speaking a little Spanish, and asking them about, you guys going to finish today? And like, so there's holes everywhere in the floor.
Oh no.
There's a huge hole when I first walk in. Yeah. There's all these filled concrete holes that are fresh. They're worried I'm going to step on them. And then I turn the corner, and like, there's no carpet, but then I'm like, okay. But then I turn the corner, and one of the bedrooms, there's like just stuff shoved up against the wall. I'm like, this place isn't even close to being demoed. And I'm like, how? She had told me they're 2 weeks out.
Oh, man.
I'm like, what the heck? And so I go into the living room. I'm like, man, there's stuff in here too. There's like tchotchkes. It's old and dusty kind of feel, but there's like tchotchkes on the shelf. And I'm like talking to this guy. He points out a few cracks in the plumbing that they found. And so I'm taking pictures. I go out to the garage. They have a Federal Pacific. They hadn't changed out the electrical panel.
That's
and
when
I
you
took
were
a picture.
asking me about the panel. Yeah.
Yeah, I asked you about the panel. I'm like, so I'm taking a picture. It's a Federal Pacific. I'm like, man, they're telling me that's 2 weeks out. They haven't changed the panel. There's like still stuff they have to demo and throw out in here. It's crazy. But this guy's telling me, oh yeah, we're going to be done tomorrow. And then they're going to bring a plumber and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay. So I'm in there, good 5 minutes. I walk out, tell them, hey, have a good day. Buen dia, igual. I'm like, okay. So I leave, and I call her. I'm like, hey, I don't know if it's going to be ready in 2 weeks. Like the foundation crew's here. What? Why is the foundation crew there? they came a couple weeks ago. I'm like, yeah, they're here. Like they're finishing right now. She's like, no, they were there a couple weeks ago. And I was like, what's the address? And I was at 4421, and I was supposed to be at 4412. And it just so happened to be on the same street, 5 houses down. There was a demo house with a crew out front that I pulled up to, just thinking, I'm here. And I just start walking around.
You saw the crew, man.
Just start taking pictures, talking to the guys, like, how's it going? Oh, you done today? Oh, man, let me take a picture of this. And I have no idea whose house that was. But they did great. It looked like they were a good crew. So then I like drive like 5 houses down. I'm like, oh, here we go.
Man. Now
here's the walk box, and
the
no
funny
one was there, of course.
the
But
the funny part's going to be when they call their boss and they call whoever
yeah, oh
hired
yeah,
them to do the
Bossman was
job and
here.
be like, "Hey, your partner was here." Who? Oh,
What?
big white bald guy.
Big guy wearing white shoes, looks like he doesn't belong at a work site. Yeah, that guy. He took a bunch of pictures. He said he was going to send to you. So
That's funny.
anyway, so then I went into the house, and they are a lot further
I think he
along.
worked for the city of Garland.
Yeah, he shut the gas off. I'm not even sure why. But yeah, so I went over to the house I was supposed to be, and they're much farther along.
Okay.
I could see how they're 2 weeks out. They have a
That
lot
was
of work to do.
breath of fresh air. You were walking in and
Yeah.
going, "Oh man,
Yeah.
this is a terrible lead. Man, this
Yeah.
sucks."
Oh no, they think they're 2 weeks out, and they've already spent 60 grand on reno, and there's nothing done.
Yeah,
So-
you're like, "Oh, this is a bust."
Yeah.
So
So we'll see how it goes.
You make it to the correct one.
I make it to the correct one, walk around. They, it's not how we would demo a house.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how it all comes together. Now, that being said, they're doing paint, they're doing countertops, they're doing electrical trim, like the landscaping. One thing you're real big on is fixing the fence and bleaching the fence and staining the fence to make it all look uniform. And that's one thing. But I mean, look, I've been here. One of the things over at Mapleton, I was like, last thing I decided on was the fence. You're like, dude, you need to do the fence. You need to do the fence. And I'm like,
a lot of people don't. A lot of
Yeah.
people don't, and I think it's just they don't have the experience. They don't understand the experience or what it takes to do it. Like they just have never. It's something I learned a long time ago. It's like if we can repair it and we can work with what we have, that's why there's like that fence makeover business and those other businesses that exist out there, because it's really not rocket science to do it. If you got a good cedar fence and the wood is in good shape, you're either going to bleach it and restain it, or you're going to do a solid stain, depending on what the stain was before. But if the wood's in good shape and it's a matter of like straightening up poles and fixing some trim and, cleaning things up and fixing the latches, it's very easy to make that fence look brand new.
Yeah. This one was kind of the Frankenstein
but
fence.
A lot of people don't do it. I mean, a lot of people cut that corner. I don't know how many properties I've seen over the years that were competition. It's just I build it in my budget. I expect to do it. It's just like landscape. I mean, there's also a lot of competition that never touches the landscape. Like they'll just do the bare minimum. If there's big 80 ugly bushes in the front, I mean, they just keep them. Mind
they
you,
trim them back. But
it's a running joke with Tabitha because she always says, "Hey, you spend so much." I don't spend that much time, but in the past, I have spent, several hours on landscape designs for projects, and it's probably maybe one out of 5 of the landscape projects that we do on a flip actually get taken care of down the road.
Right.
About 4 out of 5 do not, and so you drive by it in a year or something, and their stuff dead, or they destroyed it, or they changed it, and you're like, oh.
Well, and I remember having this conversation with you, is that she was concerned. She said, well, I hate to do landscaping just yet. It doesn't have a sprinkler system. And I was telling her, I was like, you can get a battery powered timer for your faucet. But I didn't know about that going into Mapleton. And so it's funny because I don't know how many projects they've done, but she's doing this from a distance. And some of her concerns and, hey, I'm not going to spend money. And I'm already trying to prep her to, hey, I think we should stage it if you have the money in the budget. It's really going to make a difference. And so she's open to it. It's just, hey, we got to get to the finish line and see how much we have left. Whereas, so this is a huge fundamental difference is you build all of these. I always do this, and this. And if I can't buy a house properly in order to do those things, I just won't buy the house. Like you don't ever really buy a house and be like, well, if we have money, I'll do the fence. Or if we have money, I'll do landscaping. Like you may go overboard, or like, hey, it's gone really well, let's add Japanese maple for fun. But like, you don't ever do these big chunks where you're like, maybe we'll do it, but maybe like we may stage or we may not. It's just, and that's really, I think, we've talked about the discipline. Like all of these things matter to you, and if you can't do a flip your way, you just walk away. And I was having this conversation with a wholesaler yesterday that was trying to talk me into. They had a 2,000 square foot house, and they had estimated that it was going to be a $35,000 renovation. And just looking at the pictures, I'm like, man, you've got at bare minimum, you've got flooring, paint, countertops, and that doesn't mention any sort of windows, roof, HVAC, plumbing. You needed electrical trim. It had all the gold trim on showers and closets. I'm like, to make it look newish, like you have to address some of these things. And for 35 grand, they had that doesn't say anything about staging. That doesn't say anything about landscaping. And he was like, well, yeah, I know it's going to be tight, but I think it's going to sell at the showing. I was like, yeah, well, it's just not going to work for us. And I mean, it wasn't even close. I mean, I think we were like, my estimate was like 40 grand under what they were starting at. Mm-hmm. But we've asked before, like, okay, who's buying these? Well, I think my client might be one of those people that they are getting in with some margin, and then they're like, let's just see how far this gets us. And if we need to cut out fencing and we need to minimize landscaping and we need to not do staging, well, that's a 10 grand in their mind, a 10 grand spread right there that they're going to quote, save the money, whatever.
It'll be interesting to see this, kind of use this as a case study, see how it spells out for you.
Yeah.
Coaching them on, correct pricing and demand, and they probably don't have the budget to stage it either. So, that's something, that's probably one of the biggest things I've added to the budget sheet over the last 2 years is staging.
It was like $3,500 though, right? What on average? What do you spend?
On average, it's about 25. Yeah, it's about 2,500.
But for $2,500, and that's I told her around $3,000. So you're getting 3 bedrooms, you're getting 3 rooms, and then all the tchotchkes, all the kitchen towels and the art and the plants and all the bathrooms. And it just completely, I can't tell you, how little creativity some people have when you walk into a room and the spacing. And God bless, I've said those stupid designers with their fireplaces and you go into a room and the fireplace dominates. You have to work around this oddly placed fireplace that's like kind of next to a sliding door that's 3 feet away from a window, but you back up to a kitchen. It's like, where are you supposed to put your stuff? And until someone stages it and shows you like, yep, this is where your TV could go. This is what size couch could go here. Like some people will walk into that room, be like, I can't even, and they just walk out and that's it, So we've harped on that a good bit. Well, all right. So yes, that will be fun. I'm hoping to get that listing. That would be a huge win para mí in my business if I could get a listing, and it would be a nice validation. Spending some time on those investment forums and investing in some of those conversations would hopefully work out. So I'm definitely hopeful.
Well, so change the way you're talking about it, because they reached out to you. You've already been out there, so it is your listing. So you've got to attack it that direction, not if I get the listing.
Thank you for putting your cape back on. No, you're right. You're right. I definitely need to be better about that. But yes, it is my listing. They're trusting me for my advice and my guidance, and I think part of what I'll be able to bring.
So the next thing to do is, today work on that listing agreement and set it up with a projection on it, and do 6-month listing agreement or something like that, and go ahead and start getting things in writing, get an agreement going. Because if they are working afar, it's possible somebody else comes along or somebody else talks about it, and they're like, hey, we're going to go here. So
I could do it for less.
Go ahead and start. You're already giving them advice and opinion. You're already going down this direction. So
no, that's true. I don't want them to get even tighter on the budget and be like, hey, we've got to find a flat rate listing guy. Let's just get it. We don't want to do anything like that.
And start having the conversations now about their desired net, and then back into it. And then that way you can back into it and work the numbers. Don't talk so much about sales price, but work that net number. And then
the good
figure
thing
out
is
realistic, because it's a lot easier to have a conversation and say, what do you want to net? And they go, oh, we'd love to make 50 grand.
Yeah.
And then you back into the numbers and you go, well, it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to make you 50 grand. I could potentially make you 30 grand.
Yeah.
Here's how the numbers would work. Here's a strategy, and this is the timeline in which that I think this is possible. And it's a lot better conversation than having that conversation of, hey, you want to sell it at 375? I think it's really going to sell at 350. And they're like, oh, let's just try it, you know. And it's one of those things versus actually having real numbers and them having an account of, okay, we have carry cost and we have all these different things that are going to add up. So
I need to have. We had some pricing conversations yesterday. In general, they seem very realistic and they want to move it quickly. And I don't think they're going to try to squeeze every dime out of it, which is nice. I don't think it's like, hey, we're under and we have to do the best we can to just make everything we can out of this. I think they're going about that part of it right. And so I'm definitely excited. I obviously wish the best for them. And you know, if they're successful and they want to pick something else up and they're active and we can kind of get a relationship going, that would be amazing. So, all right, let's talk about a little bit of news. And let me share my entire screen. So, getting rid of this ad. So we have talked about this, but now there's lawsuits involved. Up in Providence Village, which is north of 380.
Circling back.
It came back up. It's back in the news. North Texas HOA tried to kick out Black residents. Some are now suing for discrimination. Oh, turns out when you like some of the facts in this story they're crazy. There was a neighborhood Facebook page. Imagine this. I mean, I'm on our neighborhood Facebook page.
Social media, man.
Hey, you know, we're gonna have a neighborhood garage sale next weekend, or the pool's open, or every once in a while you'll have a picture of poop in someone's front yard and say, please pick up after your dog, or something like that. You know, that's as bad as heat is as it gets. Or please tell your kids to slow down. Well, what about this? Post called Black residents animals and trash. Some threatened physical violence. Once, a post showed a photo of a Black man with a rope around his neck. A caption read, "This one's not coming back tomorrow." Can you imagine on a neighborhood Facebook page, someone putting a post like that? And so
sickening.
It is insane. And this is 15 minutes north of here. I mean, this is not backwoods, East Texas, like, oh, that's just how it is. No, this is in the heart of DFW. This is 15 minutes north of here. This is 5 minutes from a house that you sold just a couple months ago. I mean, just insane. But yeah, there's some lawsuits against the HOA. Now, specific residents are suing as well. And I hope the best for them, because no one should have to deal with that. No one should have to feel like they're not only you're not welcome, but like fearful. You shouldn't be fearful of your family driving into a neighborhood, not really knowing what your neighbors are thinking.
Well, in those neighborhoods up there, I mean, that their attraction is all the, you know, the water parks and, you know, the neighborhood parks and all that.
Yeah, so, this is near the new Universal. This is near it's all families up there. Yeah. Very, very sad. So hopefully that gets resolved and the people that were perpetrators in that are held responsible, because we don't need that around here. I'm going to go ahead and put my foot down and say I am against that type of activity and language.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's sickening.
So we've talked about affordability and how it impacts the lifestyle and the housing crisis, the affordability crisis. Well, to help out, North Texas is raising the rates on their tolls.
Oh my gosh.
So it's going to go up 1 penny a mile. If you had to guess, this was on the ticket this morning.
Yeah.
If you had to guess how much per mile we pay on the toll, do you know? Per mile.
No.
It's going up a penny.
I mean, it's just like, you know, the way they've got it set up. I mean, if you are set up where you pay the pre-allotment account, you know, or whatever, they hit your debit card every time, you know, for $80, and it goes until it runs out. You really don't pay attention to it.
Nope.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that, you know, don't do it that way and have gotten behind, and then the penalties are just astronomical. And now they're they're making it to where you can't register your vehicle if you have toll tags. So we have a friend of ours that the number is something stupid, like
Oh no,
like $30,000 or something insane
because of fees and
yeah,
penalties
because
and
they
stuff.
build it all up. I obviously there's a negotiation there, but it's just like it's just mind-boggling that it can get out of hand to that point.
Well, it definitely impacts your. I mean, I have had to make a concerted effort because we're surrounded by 3 tolls. And if you go over to Fort Worth and you get on the express lanes, I mean, the express lanes get out of hand quickly. I mean, that's $10, $12 to go from Grapevine over to Fort Worth way. But so per mile, it's moving from 21 cents to 22 cents a mile. So every 4 miles is $1.
The way Tavis gives me a hard time, but the way I look at it in certain circumstances is what's your dollar per hour? What are you worth?
I agree. There's something to that.
And so there's a point to like looking at it and just going, okay, if it saves you 30 minutes, you know, and
30 minutes is one thing.
You got to pay a couple bucks.
So when I was doing home health, I did this experiment because I had a coworker that was a nurse, and one day she said, "Oh, I don't ever use the tolls." I was like, "How do you do that?" I mean, we're driving around all day. We put 25,000 miles a year. Yeah, we would put 25,000 miles a year on the car on average for home health. And so, how do you avoid the toll? So I just never get on it. So I did that experiment, and sure enough, I would put in on the GPS, and I did this for a while. And from point A to point B, I mean, I was saving maybe a few minutes, sometimes 5 minutes. I mean, if you're going from here over to, Rowlett, you're not going to probably stay on the frontage road the whole time or take some random side road. But if you're going around Plano and up into Frisco, you can stay on the frontage road. Now, a lot of times they have them timed where if you get on the frontage road, those lights are so short that you just sit there and wait because they're trying to encourage you to hop on. But, from a time perspective, it actually did not save me a ton when I was doing home health. And so that's really when I started to become aware of like, look, I don't have to save 5 minutes here or there. And especially if you're a teenager or an early 20-year-old, your time value is not that much more. So why don't you just stay off the toll road?
Right.
Let's not do that. So, okay, let's get over to CandyStart.com did a little summary. What did the Texas lawmakers deliver on the housing front this session? The Texas government meets every 2 years. If the session just ended, every once in a while, the governor will call what's called a special session to tackle certain issues. But the main session is 140 days every 2 years, and they're finishing up. And so a lot of bills that were passed are getting passed on to the governor to either sign or not sign. Some of the main ones are they passed a bill, Senate Bill 15, where they are prohibiting cities to, Senate Bill 15 prohibits cities with populations greater than 150,000 and counties with more than 300,000 residents from imposing minimum lot sizes greater than 3,000 square feet. So basically they're saying you can't arbitrarily say, up in Lucas, let's say, for example, some of those, they'll say you only can half acre or more is the lot sizes here. Some of those neighborhoods will put together, the cities will say you can't cram things together. So they're minimizing the power of municipalities to regulate that, where like, hey, we have to have some housing density here because we can't just keep going out. And so we're going to have to become more dense. And I think probably what's also coming down the pipeline, I've been watching more on the national level, are the ADUs and a lot of regulation on building codes as far as additional dwelling units, whether they're attached or detached. And, there's a whole world out there that guys that specialize in ADUs. And actually, Lawrence knows a lot about that. We're going to have him on the podcast here soon. So we had talked about anti-squatters. There's an anti-squatters bill. They are trying to empower tenants or tenant landlords, and the tenant right advocates were up in arms at first, but evidently this bill was not as bad for, a tenant right advocate is an interesting way of saying someone who is pulling for the squatter. That's squatter advocate. You can't put that on your business card, but they are cracking down. They're going to make it so it's requiring courts to act within 10 to 21 days of an eviction filing. And so they're trying to streamline the process and make it easier. It says Texas ranks number 2 in the nation for squatting. And that is an odd thing.
Well, it has been a problem, especially after COVID, with all the, the restrictions and everything else. There's been a lot of people, a lot of cases. I've had conversations with Matt Aycock, where he's, been involved in different scenarios where, these tenants they knew the laws, tenants knew how to push back and claim squatters' rights and appeal, the eviction. And I mean, in some cases we're able to stay in the home for, over a year or more, not paying any rent. So, there's something that has to be done for sure. The way that they were written and the loopholes and all that is
we've talked about this before.
It's not good for anyone.
The concept of a squatter actually started way, way back. And from what I could tell was in England, when these kings would have hundreds of thousands of acres, and most of which they couldn't really regulate. And they had no idea that this little corner of this little pasture was theirs. And so someone that could go and live there, maybe not even knowing that they were infringing on someone's land, set up shop. And if they would live there for a certain period of time, they would actually gain the right to that property. And they would say, look, no one kicked you off. They didn't even know you were here. You've set up your life. You have a claim to this property. And watching the Viking show now, I'm surprised they didn't just cut their head off and say, like, thanks for your argument, but we're good. But evidently they did have some sort of rights back then. And so that's carried forward. And a lot of that is the same, as if you can kind of claim, hey, look, no one has been in this house for 4 years. I've been living there. They didn't even know about it. I have a claim to this. And so there is a process for that. But a lot of times it plays out where people intentionally book an Airbnb or something, and they're like, I'm not leaving, or they break into a place and they're like, yeah, this is good luck getting me out of here. So luckily the laws, especially in Texas, seem to be going towards the landlord. So also, property tax relief is on its way. This will take an overall general election in November once it's signed, but they are going to raise the homestead exemptions from $100,000 to $140,000, and certain disabilities and over 65 folks will go from $10,000 to $60,000. Would raise the ISD homestead exemption from $100 to $140, and then there's another one that would go from 10 to 60. So what it comes down to, it would save about $484 on average property tax per homestead annually, which if you live in Dallas, you will get to pay that to the toll booth. It sounds like you will pay an extra $400 in tolls that you saved on your property taxes. So good luck with all that. But at least they're trying to make some effort to lower the taxes. One more thing here. This is a national story. Redfin News. Asking rents are falling. This is where you have to pay attention to the actual title and the story. Asking rents are falling in 28 major U.S. metros, the most since 2023. Oh my gosh. Rents are coming down. And then the first paragraph says the median U.S. asking rent fell 1% year over year in May to $1,633. So 1% of 1,633, what is that? $16?
$16.
Holy cow! It's been like, hey, average rents are dropping $16.
And then
let's write a whole article about this.
Yeah.
Hey, Lily, what do you want to write about next week? Oh my gosh, let's write about the falling rents, where people are $16 richer over the course of a year. But Austin, it did stick out because Austin did drop 9%. And but when you look at this chart here, starting back in late 23, it started to increase but pretty much for the last year, it has hovered around a very similar line, up 1%, down 1%, whatever. And so I don't know that this is a huge indicator of a long-term crisis or a trend, but Lily was able to turn in something for the deadline and feel good about herself. So we were able to talk about it on the Real Estate Heavyweights, which I'm sure is a huge feather in her cap. Okay, let's talk about a property that we checked out this last week that has a crazy story attached to it. So shifting gears here, sometimes in this segment, we talk about we'll make fun of some designs or some houses in the market, crazy expensive houses with insane dumb design or pictures or something. But we are going to check out this property. So this playing on at home, 415 2 Hines Lane in the Little Elm. And backstory to this. Go ahead.
Have you put this on your website yet?
Not yet. I need to. After today, I will. You know what I need to do is I need to go back so I'll tell you why I need to go back. So backstory to this. So this is a property, 0.4 acres, very close to Louisville Lake Louisville. You can actually see the lake through the trees, although I wouldn't call it lakefront or lake view, but you can see it. So you have expressed interest in having a shop where you can kind of put your, Josephine in a boat and a jet ski, and Casey or a friend that your lake friend that you travel with a lot. They kind of want a shop where they can store something here and there. We have another client, Jeremy. He's looking for some land, and he kind of wants a shop, and he wants to maybe have an RV or something like that. So this property popped up, and I'm like, man, this is really cool. It has a 1-year-old shop, a 2,400 square foot building. Why is it not pulling up now? Of course.
And this is in Little Elm. This is north of El Dorado, but it's technically outside the city limits. So it's Denton County.
Yeah, it's an unincorporated.
Little Elm ISD. It's just south of El Dorado. Okay.
So it's just south of El Dorado.
Garza Lane in El Dorado.
Right before, when you turn into here, you can see the Louisville Lake Toll Bridge, right? So it's a little unincorporated area, but on the other side, on the east side of Garza, there's a huge new neighborhood going in. There's all sorts of development going on over here. And so I was like, well, I'm gonna go check it out. And so on Saturday morning, I booked a time, actually at 7:30, to go check it out. And I got there, and we're having a little bit of trouble with the lock and all this. So I came back, and the first thing you notice about this property is there's signs all over it that say, do not trespass. We don't call 911, all that stuff. There's cameras everywhere, but there's this shop. So I finally get in, and really neat property. So it has this 2,400 acre shop, or 2,400 square foot shop. It's all gated in. They've got another little garage where you could fit a boat, jet ski. And there's an office that has plumbing out here, electrical. Man, this would make a great place for Tavis or Casey or Jeremy or somebody, right? And so here's the office in the shed. And you see these racks that say extra small, medium, large. I'm like, oh, they ran an office out of here. It definitely had a motorcycle vibe. There's several spray painted signs about Harley and some motorcycles. There's an RV. Well, this house here had some work done to it in the listing. It says they've changed some windows, the roof, HVAC. Went through the house.
So it looked like they were living in the RV.
Maybe the RV, because they might have been living in the house. Yeah, they could have lived in the house, but it was kind of DIY pieced together. It was not renovated. Like you could see, like this wall here looks like there's LVP put on the wall. That's a rug. That's a rug.
That's a rug. Okay.
It looks like a marble floor. Yeah, but it's but it functioned, but it had not technically been renovated, right? Okay. And so I sent you a picture from the house where there was this mural on the wall. I don't know that the listing has a picture of it. It doesn't.
Okay.
But there was this motorcycle mural on the wall. Oh my God, these were motorcycle guys.
Was that all the signs right there?
There's more of it. This is like a third of the signs. I mean, there's like signs everywhere, right? Hey, don't trespass. You're on camera. We don't call 911, all that shit.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I sent it to you and you're like, man, I just don't know how I can make this work. I would love something like this. It's just, I don't know how to make money with it. And I can't justify just buying it. And so Casey's sort of in the same boat, and Jeremy, he's looking for something a little bit further out in the country, and so we're like, I just don't know if this is for us. Well, I don't know what, I was just looking the property up, and I found, the name of the company is Two Wheel Toys. And I'm like, I wonder if they moved. And so, cause I was thinking, well, if they're still around, I wonder if they know someone that would want to rent this place or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so I look them up on Facebook, and they have good reviews, and like there's pictures of them working on motorcycles in this building, filled with motorcycles, filled with like, you had there was like a 60 Chevy in there at one point. I mean, it looked like a really cool vibe.
Yeah.
And I start reading, and sure enough, the guy who owned it, he had broken his ankle about a year ago, or broke his leg or something. He was kind of down and out. I'm like, oh man, I hope he didn't lose his business because he got hurt. Well, then I read a little bit more, and then I see a post from his mom and another post from his mom. And dang it, if this guy did not die kayaking on Lake Louisville, and when I told you that, you're like, I know that story. I heard that story. And we did some research, and not long ago, this guy who owned this company in this building had taken his kayak down real close to where this place was, and gotten in, had a life jacket on, went kayaking around sunset, and around 9 o'clock, according to the story, because his dad told the story, he had flipped out of his kayak. He called his dad and said, I don't think I'm going to make it. And his dad runs down to the lake, panicked, trying to find him. And you say there was a huge storm that night, a lot of winds. And his dad in the story said it was super windy. And he tried to find him, and he couldn't. And about a couple hours later, they found him. He had drowned near the Lake Louisville Bridge. And I was reading through it and just seeing all the pictures. And I just walked through this property, and to know that mural that I had seen in the house, he had talked about painting that himself when his leg was broken. He's like, I can't do much. And so I just did some art on the wall. What do you guys think? And just a real sad story. And, they listed it for 8 days ago. They listed it for $385, and now it's down. They've already dropped the price to $350. And so I just think the family is just wanting to be done with it and, kind of move on. So yeah, I'd like to go make a new video, because I had no idea of the context, and I didn't say anything bad about the property, but I was not talking about it in a way where I knew the story. I'm like, oh, these guys look like they're motorcycle guys. It's like, I want to be aware of what I'm talking about. I don't want to put a video out that's disrespectful at all, And so I think I want to go back out there, do a nice video, try to put it out, and try to find these guys a buyer, because like this, I can't even imagine what they're going through right now.
Yeah, it'd be good for a trade, I mean, somebody that's got, trucks and equipment and things like that they need to, store, it would be good for that kind of situation. If you got trailers and, equipment and things like that, because finding a house that has that option is very tough.
It's right on El Dorado, right across the Louisville Bridge that goes over to 35. Great access to 35. I mean, if you lived in Denton or Lake Dallas or even Louisville, having this as your shop would be fantastic. I mean, there's a lot of trades and it's growing so much. There's actually another automotive shop that's opening up just east. It's a big shop, and it's not open yet, but it looks brand new. And man, I wish we could do something to push this out, to get this family some closure. And it looks like his mom's taking care of all the business stuff, and she's posted several times on his Facebook page asking questions and I guess they were trying to sell all his stuff on Facebook Marketplace and trying to find a home for a lot of the equipment and all that. I mean, I just can't imagine. So my question about the lake, when I was driving across there, and I went over to Shady Shores. Are you able to access every part of the lake? Like from where y'all are, I saw it. There's like a sailboat marina maybe over on that side of the lake.
Yeah.
Can you pretty much get everywhere? Or are there parts where you can't take your boat that's too shallow or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely parts of the lake that are shallow or have a lot of trees in them, or things like that. But no, that Dallas Yacht Club that's up there on the north side of the marina, you can get up there, and there's a place right there that we like to go. It's far, so we don't go all the time, but it's called Boy Scout Cove is the name that boaters have given to it. I think at some point had a Boy Scout camp right there. I don't know if it's still.
There's a Jesuit retreat over there. Was that what you're talking about? When I was driving Shady Shores, there's a big land that says Jesuit retreat.
Yeah, maybe that might have been the Boy Scout camp originally.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but
maybe
it's on the north side there. But it's a nice little cove and backs up. I mean, there's some really nice homes that it backs up to. But
yeah. Well, it's a neat part of it, just driving around the lake and kind of exploring. It's an odd kind of Wild West, unincorporated. There's a lot of just dirt roads and offshoots. And here's a neighborhood with a $2 million house. Here's a couple trailers. Here's an automotive shop. There's another $1 million house. Like that's the feel over there. And I don't quite know why the cities haven't incorporated, because I know this property is on septic. And, so there's, Jeremy, our client, he kind of wants a place that's unincorporated, or that he can do not as many rules about how many RVs can I have on here. Can I put a trailer behind there or something like that? He wants to be able to do that. There's a lot of people that want that. And, but yeah, this guy, Taz, it looks like he had put a lot of love into this place and want to try to help him out if we can. So I'm going to get out there if the agent will be cool with me going back and shooting another video. And not that I have a huge reach, but we can do a video, try to push it out, try to get this family an offer and let them move on. So that would be great. But if you have not, please like, subscribe, find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I talked with our guy over in the Philippines this morning via message. He has steady working on our YouTube videos, editing, getting those up. And so our YouTube page should be coming alive again. And find us on Apple and all the places, Audible, Apple, Spotify. And send this to a friend. Tell them that there's some guys that are doing some good work in the DFW and the real estate market. And we would love you forever. And until next time, have a great day.
See you guys.